Keith Olbermann is here. He became a household name in the 1990s as an anchor on ESPN Sports Center. From sports, he jumped to politics. For 8 years, he hosted Countdown, the popular political news show on MSNBC. His program made waves for its provocative and outspoken opinion journalism. In August 2013, he returned to ESPN, where he hosts a nightly show. It is simply called Olbermann. I am very pleased to have him at this table for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here, finally.
Exactly, finally. And it's about time, by the way.
Good.
I say this to you. Charles Kuralt at CBS used to say, when somebody walks down the hall and they know how to write, you stop and salute. I don't know of anybody in sports journalism writes as well as you do.
Thank you kindly.
I really mean that. And, I mean, it's a gift to be able to do that, to express yourself so well. None better than Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have a lot to work with under those circumstances.
The life of Tony Gwynn.
The life of Tony Gwynn. To me, in preparing something like the obituary of Tony Gwynn, get out of the way of the story. That one tells itself. Sometimes you have to apply yourself to a story and make it work and really write it and think about it. But if you tell what you know of something, particularly if it is personal and it isn't full of statistics and it isn't, anything but an attempt to convey who the human being was, it will resonate with people, as I think that did. And I'm always flattered when somebody mentions it or something else like that. But I attribute whatever people felt about that piece, I attribute it to Tony Gwynn, not to my work.
Because you felt that way about that man.
Yeah, I mean, he was...
And that man deserved that kind of the best thought you could possibly have.
Absolutely. There are very few people who are uniformly loved in any field. And you sit there and you go, well, who didn't like him? I'm sure there were some pitchers who held grudges against him, but I never met anybody who disliked him. And so in that environment that to wear your heart on your sleeve when it happens, when a particular man is taken of that quality and that level of appreciation that people had for him, and at that young age, that just tell what you know and tell what you feel, and you can't possibly offend anybody. You can't be telling them too much. And they want to know that. I mean, people have affection for so few public figures anymore. Public figures are there basically as easily hit targets. That's not the way people felt about Gwynn and some other figures of his time and others, but it just made it...
Was it the combination of talent and humility?
I think it was a combination...
And character.
Well, character, but there are a lot of guys like that who are also then deathly dull. Yes. I mean, they just are not, it's just stoic kind of,
right.
All right, here we go again.
I know how to hit, that's it, kid.
Right, well, I mean, if you were just another person, public note, Derek Jeter is a tremendously respected and liked and admired, but I don't think anybody would ever think he's going to win some sort of America's Got Talent competition. I mean, just because he doesn't choose to be that way. Tony Gwynn never lost for a moment the sense that you were doing him a favor by letting him play baseball, that you were doing a favor knowing who he was, saying hello to him, interviewing him, whatever it was, he felt, every time I ever saw him and everybody I know who ever knew him, he felt honored that he was in a certain environment. He was in a position to be, to experience the things he wanted to experience. I mean, the one story that I told in the piece was of the 1998 World Series at Yankee Stadium. And I'd known Tony for about 10 years, and one of the things he said as the San Diego Padres were coming into New York, in these days of very limited interleague play, the Padres had never played at Yankee Stadium. And he said, I'm great, and I'm just delighted to be back in the World Series. He said, but the real thrill for me is I'm going to get to hear the great Yankee public address announcer, Bob Shepard, say my name over the PA system at Yankee Stadium. And just to state something like this indicates that what he happened to be was a big fan of baseball who turned into one of its greatest hitters, who happened to produce a 330-plus batting average. The only fan ever to hit 330 or more in the major leagues. And so when I heard this, I knew Bob Shepard and I knew Tony Gwynn. I said, well, they've got to meet. So I arranged for that meeting, and they sat, and Tony Gwynn talked to Bob Shepard about names and pronunciations and how do you hold the microphone and everything for half an hour. Yeah. And at the end of it, I got Bob Shepard to record the introduction. Now batting for the San Diego, number 19, Tony Gwynn. And put it on one of these little, talking greeting card things, along with a picture of the two of them, sent it to him. And the next time I saw him, he said, yeah, it's in my trophy case next to the silver bats they give me for the batting championship. He thought that's literally who he was. This memento of being a Major League Baseball player was as important to him as the mementos of winning the batting championship.
From the beginning with baseball, did you love sports?
It was instantaneous. If I could go back with a calendar, I'd give you the exact dates that it occurred. A kid named Wolfgang Levson, who I went to grammar school with, 10th birthday maybe in 1967. I'm at the party. The party favors for the kids. By the way, this is a German-American family from Germany, and so the parents spoke with the accents and everything, and they all had the 60s German look to them. And Wolf was there, and the party favors were packs of baseball cards. And everybody's baseball card had in it a special insert that they put out that year that had a small poster that was folded up inside. And it was a picture of Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle or whoever. My pack didn't have one. So I was so offended by this that I immediately took a dime and went and bought another pack.
Yes.
By the end of that week, after the second pack of the baseball cards, I was bugging my parents to take me to Yankee Stadium, which they did within a month. And then I was getting so annoying by the end of the year that my uncle bought me a baseball encyclopedia, which I read like page 1 to page 1,000, like it was a book of some sort, like it was a novel.
I can't put it down.
So I knew who Matt Kilroy of the 1883 Baltimore Orioles was by the end of the year. And I can remember it was my mother's uncle who did this, and she said to him, what the blank did you do that for? And then, so now this is May 1967 to Christmas 1967. By the spring of 1968, it was so bad that my parents used to refuse to acknowledge me if I spoke about baseball on an even-numbered day. The odd-even system, my parents invented it, and I never stopped talking about it since.
A lot of great political reporters come from sports.
Yes.
Scotty Reston, for one, the great columnist for the New York Times, and covered sports. And there's something about describing sports that gives you the wattage to describe political events.
Yeah, I think that's true, and it's historically true, too. The name escapes me, but there was Westbrook Pegler.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Daily baseball writer.
Right.
Ring Lardner, daily baseball writer. Not that he went into politics, but he went into, novel writing or at least short story writing and many other things. It's a great training ground in terms of determining cause and effect. A ball game ends and somebody won and somebody lost.
Yeah, I was going to say that. There are always a winner and a loser.
And you may be able to say at the end of a 120 to 119 basketball loss that it was a moral victory that you were able to do that well. But you can't go and claim that you won the game. And the reason that I think that almost everybody who goes from sports into politics is, I think it's fair to say, you just don't go and cover politics after you cover sports. You cover it acerbically and doubtfully and dubiously.
Because
there are people claiming that they won the game when they lost.
I see.
In the same
and
thing.
You know better having covered sports.
Well, yeah, but the same thing that puts those brain cells in that order that says, okay, you're leading, you won. Refuses to accept anybody who says you were losing, you didn't win. And your opinion is not the most popular, and you are not correct on this, and your side did not, and that's not what the other guy did. You become, I think all of them, and I'll include myself in the group, I think all of us who ever tried this become to some degree angry at the politicians for trying to get away with this stuff that in sports would get them laughed out of the locker room.
Are you more comfortable in sports than politics?
It's my original language. I mean, I was literally explaining this to somebody. I said, if you went to France and spoke beautifully in French and did, say, your show for 10 years in France,
right,
and you loved it, and people liked it, and you felt you had a positive influence, when you came back here, you'd suddenly go and remember, I can do this 3 times as fast in English as I do it in French. And so the politics show is, and all the work that I did there was very rewarding, and I own it, and I don't repudiate any of it. But in terms of the ease with which you can make your brushstroke and confidently know that you know what you're talking about, and you've seen this event occur 1,000 times before. It's just it's your natural tongue.
But you went back to sports.
Yeah.
Most don't go back.
Yeah. Well, I've done this several times.
Yes, I know.
I mean, to trace the pattern, it's interesting. When I was a kid, I used to have these daydreams that they were ridiculous, that there'd be some television network that showed nothing but news, and that there'd be some television network that showed nothing but sports, and that I would get to work for both of them, which turned out to be literally my career path. Yes. I didn't have quite the zigs and zags planned, but I went from... In college, I did news and sports, and then the first job I was ever offered was sports because that was where the first vacancy was. If it had been news, they would have put me in news instead. And so I wound up staying in sports. I was offered a news job as long as it was 1984 and took it. And then their sports guy quit, and they said, no, do sports instead. I said, okay, fine. And then the NBC thing, the first MSNBC thing occurred in 1997 because I was... asked to go and host the World Series and be involved in the Super Bowl coverage when I was leaving ESPN. And they said, and by the way, we'll give you an hour a night on our new cable network, MSNBC. I don't really remember hearing that in the conversation. When they said you're hosting the World Series, it was like, and sweeping the floors?
That's right. So you remembered you're hosting the World Series.
I heard hosting World Series. The rest of it was Charlie Brown's teacher's voice. So the next thing I know, I'm on a desperately bad attempt at a news magazine show on a nightly basis. And then the Lewinsky story broke, and we had 2 million viewers a night out of, going from like 3 viewers to 2 million overnight, and I had to do that all the time. So I did news and politics for about a year and a half, and then went screaming into the street going, get me out of here, and went to work for Fox to do sports there. Then after that ended, I went back and did news again, and then I went and did sports again. So, not many people go back, but my career path does not match many other people.
You don't just leave people angry.
Yeah.
I mean, you leave them... I'm talking about the people that employ you.
Oh, this is overblown.
Is it?
It is. I was thinking about this the other night. Since 2001, these are my employers: ABC, CNN, NBC at MSNBC, ESPN Radio, Current TV, and now again ESPN Television. So that's 6 employers in the last 13 years, 5 of whom I had previously worked for. So if I'm everything, I'm not saying some of the reputation is not true. I'm not saying I'm the world's easiest employee and I've never won the Employee of the Month award, nor would I want to.
Yeah, exactly.
But the idea that you can't work with him and he has sparks coming out of his ears. This is not true. Because why would they bring me back if I was that bad?
But fair enough. So
we know they're television executives, and perhaps they know they bang their heads against the wall periodically just for the fun of it. But why would they bring me back if it was that impossible to reach?
What is it about you and the way you express complaints that makes them go a bit wacky?
Well, again, I would say these are things from, almost all of these things are from the previous century.
You have been a model citizen since 2000.
I would say my score of being a troublesome employee is a little bit, maybe it's a C- rather than a C since that time. I'm just sort of in the middle somewhere.
And current, that would include current in that?
Yes. Yeah. You'd be surprised. I mean, we'll just leave it at that. But the story of that is best not told, just generally speaking. The whole thing. Everybody made terrible mistakes.
Because nobody has clean hands.
Nobody has clean hands. No, I think nobody has clean hands. I didn't do the vetting that I needed to do, and they didn't do things that they needed to do.
Vetting before you made the deal.
Yeah.
So what you thought you would get, you didn't get, and what they thought they would receive, they didn't receive.
Yeah, and I think that's a good summary of it. That's a good summary of it to prevent anything further bad from happening. Yeah. Look, the network doesn't exist anymore. But quite seriously, to this point, If you're not growing, I mean, some of this stuff, I mean, the great line about, he didn't just burn his bridges.
Yeah, that came from an ESPN executive.
A guy named Mike Soltis, who I spent half an hour having drinks with at the Sports Emmys, and we took a selfie and tweeted it out, pointing.
To let everybody know.
We did literally. We put our hands out like in a bridge form and pointed at the bridge, like we had rebuilt the bridge. But my point about mentioning this is the stuff that I did that caused him to make this memorable remark as a corporate PR officer, by the way. That's 1997.
Yeah.
That is a long time ago. And if I haven't grown since 1997, then I'm hopeless.